Three students are discussing struggling with academic writing at university.
I'm finding academic writing so tough this semester. I just can't seem to get my ideas across clearly on paper, and my grades are suffering. I think it's the structure that gets me the most. I end up rambling and never really making a solid point. It's frustrating because I understand the material, I just can't articulate it well.
I totally get that. For me, it's the research. Finding credible sources and then, putting them into my writing without plagiarizing is a nightmare. I spend more time worrying about citations than actually writing the paper. And honestly, just understanding what counts as good research is half the battle, you know?
You both hit on my biggest struggles. But I also think about how much there is to do. It feels like every class needs a massive research paper. Trying to balance that with everything else, like exams and stuff, is impossible. I start procrastinating because it feels so overwhelming, and then I end up rushing and doing a bad job.
Maybe we should look into the writing center? I've heard mixed reviews, but it could be worth a shot. They offer workshops on things like structuring essays and proper citation, which might help us both. Or, we could form a study group and read each other's papers before we hand them in. Fresh eyes can often catch things we miss ourselves.
I'm down for a study group. I've been meaning to try that. The writing center sounds good too, although I worry it'll be super busy so close to the deadline. I did hear from a friend that the library has research skills workshops. Maybe focusing on finding better sources could take some of the pressure off.
I'm in on both. A study group would definitely help with feeling so overwhelmed. Just having someone to bounce ideas off of could make a huge difference. And anything that makes my research better is a win. I'll check out the library workshops, and maybe someone else can check out the writing center.
Deal. I'll look into the writing center and tell you what I find out. We could even set specific goals for our study group sessions, like outlining an essay or proofreading a certain number of pages. Having a structured approach might make it less scary.
That sounds like a solid plan. I think breaking down the writing process into smaller steps will make a huge difference. I'm actually feeling more optimistic already. Plus, misery loves company, right? It's good to know we're all in the same boat.
Absolutely. And knowing we're actually working on getting better is a huge confidence booster. I'm actually excited to start the next paper now. Let's figure out our schedules and get this study group going.
Three students are discussing study strategies and habits at university.
I've been trying out different ways to study, and I'm still figuring out what works best for me. Sometimes, I feel like I'm just going around in circles. I started the Pomodoro thing, but I get distracted during the breaks. Anyone got tips on how to stay focused when you're studying?
Spaced repetition is amazing, honestly, it saves me, especially when you need to remember vocabulary or tricky stuff. Apps like Anki are really helpful. You go over things with breaks in between, which, apparently, helps move stuff from short-term to long-term memory. Also, I try to find a quiet place to study, like the library, so I don't get distracted.
I tried spaced repetition, and it was okay, but I get bored easily. What really helps me is active recall. Basically, testing myself instead of just reading stuff again. I write down questions, then try to answer them without looking at my notes. It's harder, but I remember way more. Maybe try that, Sarah.
That's a good idea, Arya. I've also been wanting to try mind mapping. I think seeing everything laid out visually could help me get the bigger picture and connect the dots between different ideas. Sometimes I feel like I'm just learning facts without really understanding how they all fit. How do you guys take notes and keep things organized?
I really like the Cornell method for notes. Basically, you split your page into sections for notes, cues, and a summary. Then, after class, you fill in the cues and the summary part. Writing the summary makes me really think hard about what I've learned. It can take up a bit of time, though.
I just take notes however I feel like. I write down whatever seems important at the time, and then I go back and highlight the main stuff later. It's not super organized, I know, but it works for me. I also try to connect what I'm learning to real life to help me remember it, especially if the professor is just going on and on.
I totally get that. I sometimes feel stressed by the amount of stuff we have to learn. I think I need to break bigger tasks down into smaller, easier bits. I'm also trying to take more breaks and look after myself more to avoid burnout. What do you two do to chill out when exams are coming up?
I go to the gym. Seriously, working out really helps me with stress. I also try to make time for fun stuff, like seeing a movie or hanging with friends, to get my mind off studying. It's all about balance, I think. You can't just study all the time.
I watch loads of my favorite shows, which isn't the best thing to do, but it helps me relax. I also try to get enough sleep, which is hard when it's exam time. If you don't sleep, everything gets worse. Oh, and I like to study with my friends, because, well, misery loves company. Three students are discussing preparing for an oral presentation at university.
Okay, so we're all set for our presentation next week, right? I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, to be honest. I've started drafting my slides, but I'm not sure if I'm focusing on the right things. I'm also worried about the time limit because it's tough to get everything into just 10 minutes. Has anyone got any tips for how to structure it well?
Okay, so we're all set for our presentation next week, right? I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed, to be honest. I've started drafting my slides, but I'm not sure if I'm focusing on the right things. I'm also worried about the time limit because it's tough to get everything into just 10 minutes. Has anyone got any tips for how to structure it well?
I agree with Liam about practicing for sure. I usually record myself giving the presentation, and then I watch it back to see where I can make it better. It's awful, but it really does help. For the content, I think it's good to start by outlining your main arguments, even before you make the slides. What's the main thing you're trying to say? It's easy to get lost in the details, but that'll help you stay on track.
That's a really good idea, Laura, about doing the outline first. I usually just jump right into the details and then I have trouble making it all make sense together. I'm also a bit nervous about the Q&A part afterwards. What if I don't know an answer? Any ideas on how to get ready for that?
The Q&A is tricky, but you can get ready. Think about the questions people might ask and have some answers ready, even if they're just rough. It's also okay to say you don't know, but you'll find out. Being honest is always best.
I actually think the Q&A is the most fun. It's a chance to really talk with the audience and show how much you care about the topic. Going along with what Liam said, it's totally fine to say, "That's a great question, but I don't really have a good answer right now." You could even ask the audience what they think. It's a conversation, not a test.
Okay, I feel a bit better now. Thanks, you two. I think I'll try to make a really good outline and practice how I'm going to say it. I'll also try to think of some questions they might ask, but I won't worry about it too much. I guess the main thing is to be ready, but also be able to change if I need to and enjoy it. That's easier said than done, though.
You've got this, Sarah. We're all in the same boat. Just remember to breathe and try to have fun. It's a great chance to share what you know and get some feedback. Plus, giving presentations is a really good skill to have for jobs later, so think of it as practice for after university. Three students are discussing online versus in-person classes at university.
Honestly, I think online classes are just way more convenient, especially if you have a part-time job. You can fit your lectures around your own schedule, and there's no wasted time commuting. Plus, it's great if you like learning on your own, because you really have to be disciplined.
Yeah, I get why it's convenient, but I really miss the in-person experience. It's much easier to ask questions straight away in a lecture, and group discussions feel more natural face-to-face. The atmosphere on campus also feels much more helpful for learning.
I totally agree with Liam. Online learning is flexible, but I've found it really hard to stay focused sometimes. There are so many distractions at home, and I feel a bit disconnected from my classmates and teachers. It's also easy to fall behind if you're not checking emails and online platforms regularly.
That's a fair point about distractions, but honestly, for me, the flexibility is much more important. I can re-watch lectures if I miss something, which you can't do in a live class. Also, for quieter students, joining online forums can be much less stressful than speaking up in a big lecture hall.
Yeah, rewatching lectures is definitely a big advantage. But I also feel like you miss out on spontaneous conversations and meeting people on campus. Those informal talks after class or in the library are really valuable for making connections and understanding different viewpoints.
Exactly. The social side is huge. University isn't just about lessons, it's about the whole experience. You can build study groups more easily, and getting immediate feedback or having something explained is simpler when you're in the same room as your professor.
I guess a hybrid model might be the best idea then. We could have some lectures online for flexibility, but keep workshops, labs, and tutorials in person. That way, we get the best of both worlds without completely losing the campus experience.
Yeah, A hybrid approach sounds pretty reasonable. At the end of the day, different students do well in different environments. Some need the structure of in-person classes, while others prefer the freedom of online learning. Universities should offer more options depending on the course and what students actually need.
I totally agree with that. For me, just being on campus, even for a few days a week, makes a huge difference to my motivation and how involved I feel. It's hard to beat the feeling of being part of a lively university community. Three students are discussing getting help during office hours at university.
I'm finding it hard to really get the most out of office hours. I go, but sometimes I feel like I'm not even asking the right questions. It's kind of intimidating, especially when there are other students waiting.
I get that. A lot of students feel the same way. Office hours are often scheduled when you have another class, or you are already exhausted after a long day. It's hard to be prepared, so I sometimes just show up hoping the professor can figure out what I'm struggling with.
Maybe we should prepare more before going. We could write down specific questions or problems we're working on. That way, we won't waste time trying to decide what to ask. It could also make us feel less nervous.
That's a good idea, Arya. I've also heard that some professors are easier to talk to than others. Maybe we should find out which professors are helpful and patient during office hours. It might make us more comfortable asking questions, and we could try going when it's less busy.
True. I've definitely felt rushed when the professor is really busy. Maybe we could work together before going to office hours. We could form a small study group, brainstorm questions, and work through problems together. Then we'd have better questions to ask the professor.
I like that. A study group could really help. We should also use other resources besides office hours, such as the tutoring center or online forums. Sometimes a different explanation can make all the difference. It's not just about getting help from the professor.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Sometimes I focus too much on getting the professor's approval, but there are actually many other resources we can use. We should try harder to explore them. It's about taking responsibility for our own learning.
Okay, so next time, let's prepare specific questions, check other resources, and meet beforehand to brainstorm. I think that would help us use office hours much better. It should also make us feel more confident.
Sounds like a plan. We could even schedule a study session every week before office hours. That way, we're all prepared and can help each other. Let's make getting help during office hours less stressful and more useful.